These are the most crooked refs I've ever seen in my life. They did everything possible on that field to hand this goof the dub. What an absolute joke that was.
Aaron Rodgers walked off the field in Cleveland knowing the season could have changed in a single moment. The Steelers had just missed their chance to clinch the division. Seconds later, his words ignited a league review and put his future under an even brighter spotlight. One loss, one comment, and suddenly everything in Pittsburgh felt uncertain. And one of the most scrutinized quarterback seasons the Steelers have seen in years. The game itself was ugly from the start. Cleveland controlled the tempo. Pittsburgh struggled to move the ball. Drives stalled, opportunities slipped away. By the fourth quarter, the Steelers had managed just 6 points. Still, they were alive. Still, they had a chance. With seconds remaining, Rodgers dropped back on 4th and goal. The pass fell incomplete. The Browns celebrated. The Steelers stood frozen. Rodgers believed the ending should have been different. In the locker room and moments later in front of reporters, Rodgers spoke openly about what he saw on that final play. He pointed directly to what he believed was clear defensive pass interference. He said it plainly. He did not hedge. He did not soften the words. He said the receiver was impeded. He said the call was missed. And in doing so, he crossed into territory the NFL watches very closely. Public criticism of officiating has long been one of the league's red lines. Players complain privately. Coaches bite their tongues publicly. Quarterbacks especially understand the balance. Rodgers did not hold back. Within hours, the comments spread. By the next day, reports confirmed the NFL was reviewing his remarks for potential fines or discipline. This was not happening in a vacuum. The loss to Cleveland carried real consequences. The Steelers were one win away from clinching the AFC North. Instead, the door slammed shut. Their playoff path suddenly depended on the final game of the season against the Baltimore Ravens. Pressure increased, stakes rose, and the focus shifted directly onto Rodgers. Statistically, the night offered little protection. 6 points, 1 touchdown opportunity missed, a game where the defense kept Pittsburgh alive while the offense sputtered. For critics, the question was obvious. How much blame could really be placed on one uncalled penalty when the offense failed to produce for nearly 60 minutes? This is where the season context matters. When Aaron Rodgers arrived in Pittsburgh, expectations were massive. The Steelers were seen as a quarterback away, a veteran leader, a future Hall of Famer. Someone who could steady close games and elevate the offense in moments exactly like this. Instead, the season became uneven. Brilliant stretches followed by frustrating lulls, strong starts followed by stalled drives. Every week, magnified by the spotlight, Rodgers carries with him everywhere. The Browns' loss was not an outlier. It was a breaking point. League discipline for comments like Rodgers made is not unusual. Fines for criticizing officials have happened many times before. What made this situation different was the timing and the voice. Rodgers is not a fringe player. He is not a backup venting frustration. He is the face of the franchise and one of the most influential players in the sport. When he speaks, the league listens, and so does everyone else. The NFL review is centered on whether his comments violated league policies regarding public criticism of officiating. Historically, this leads to fines rather than suspensions. Still, the review itself adds pressure. It reinforces the idea that Rodgers' comments crossed a line in the league's view. Inside Pittsburgh, the reaction was mixed. Some teammates reportedly understood the frustration. The final play was chaotic. Emotions were raw. Division titles do not come easily. Others believed the focus should have remained internal. The offense had multiple chances earlier in the game to change the outcome. Settling for 6 points against a divisional rival is rarely a winning formula. Fans were just as divided. Supporters argued Rodgers was saying what everyone saw. They believed the receiver was held. They believed the call mattered. They believed silence would have felt dishonest. Critics fired back that blaming officials only distracts from real problems. Missed reads, missed blocks, missed chances in the red zone. All of it added up long before the final snap. Analysts across the league framed it the same way. One call never defines a game, but moments do define narratives. And this moment added to a growing narrative around Rodgers' season in Pittsburgh. There is also the Browns factor. Cleveland did not win with fireworks. They won with control. They forced Pittsburgh into uncomfortable situations. They kept Rodgers from finding rhythm. Their defense played physical, but within the limits of what officials allowed. From their perspective, the final play was simply football. Contact, pressure, a stop when it mattered most. The Browns celebrated. The Steelers questioned. As the league review unfolded, another reality set in. The Steelers no longer controlled their destiny. The final game against Baltimore now carried enormous weight. Every comment, every practice, every throw by Rodgers would be dissected. His leadership would be judged not just by words, but by how the team responded next. For Rodgers, this season has been one long balancing act, learning a new system, adjusting to new teammates, carrying the weight of expectations that come with his resume. Every mistake amplified, every quote analyzed, every loss framed as a referendum on whether this experiment was worth it. The review by the NFL adds one more layer. It turns a football discussion into a league issue. It keeps Rodgers' name in headlines for reasons that have nothing to do with touchdowns or wins. Historically, Rodgers has never been shy about expressing his views. That confidence has fueled his success. It has also fueled controversy. In Green Bay, in New York, and now in Pittsburgh, the pattern repeats in different ways. What matters next is not the fine if one comes. It is not the league memo. It is what happens on the field. The Steelers' season still hangs in the balance. A win against Baltimore could erase much of the noise. A loss would amplify every criticism. For Rodgers, the margin is thin. Veteran quarterbacks are judged by results, not explanations. In the locker room after the Browns' loss, the mood was heavy. No celebration, no excuses, just the quiet understanding that opportunity had slipped away. Rodgers' words had already traveled far beyond that room. The NFL review will run its course. Fines will be paid, statements will fade, but the film remains. 6 points, a missed chance, a final play that now lives in debate. For the Steelers, the question is simple. Can they move forward without carrying this moment with them? For Rodgers, the question is deeper. Can he lead without letting frustration become the story? This season was supposed to be about control, experience, poise in big moments. Instead, it has become a test of resilience. The Browns' loss did not end the Steelers' season, but it exposed the fault lines within it. The league will decide whether Rodgers' words crossed policy. Fans will decide whether they crossed a line. Teammates will decide whether they move on together. And Rodgers will step back onto the field knowing that the next result will matter far more than the last comment. Because in the NFL, explanations fade quickly. Wins do not. The season now comes down to one game, one opponent, one final chance to redefine the narrative. Everything else is noise.